Stop downplaying your success, 3 steps to speak up and be seen. I have been a management consultant and an organizational psychologist for about 20 years, and I've coached hundreds of leaders at all levels of the organization, from the C-suite to the front line, to really navigate successful transformations, both organizational projects and personal transformations. And I have had that executive level experience myself, both as a hiring manager and building multi-million dollar consulting businesses. So I've had a lot of practice pitching, both from a sales perspective, but also myself, because when you're in consulting, it's really the only business where you get to really reinvent yourself, kind of like Madonna or Lady Gaga. You get to reinvent yourself over and over and over again. I'm also a Gen Xer, and I often found myself the diversity in the room and in male dominated spaces. And I really had to learn, especially even as an introvert, how to really advocate for myself in a room full of hyper competitive individuals, often in STEM environments. And so, my hope today is that by the end of our time, and I am going to watch the clock, that you will really be able to pinpoint why speaking up and self-advocacy matters, that you'll be able to kind of think about and explain how self-doubt can kind of get in the way and start to replace those self-limiting beliefs, and to start to use a 3-step framework to show up like you mean it. So a little housekeeping. Everybody is muted, and you may have some general questions about the content as we're going through this. I can't see the chat while we're going through the content, but you can kind of put your questions into the chat. I'm going to try to leave some time at the end to go through general questions, but I suspect that questions you may have may be more around your specific kind of situation, through a very personal lens and context. And so I'm going to make sure that at the end, that if you want to discuss your unique situation, you're always welcome to grab 15 minutes with me to talk in detail about what's going on with you, or if you want to run anything by me specifically. And so my contact information will be on the last side of the presentation. So I just really want to jump in. There was something about the title of this presentation that said, I'm going to spend 30 minutes of my time in the evening. Well, I don't know what time of day it is for you, but it's 6:30 Eastern time for me. When you think about the title of the presentation about stop downplaying your success, I want you to really think about what is holding you back, right? And I want you to pause and candidly ask yourself that question. And a lot of times when we think about what holds us back, we can think about things that are external to us. Is it something that is around lack of knowledge? Is it not knowing what to say? Is it getting tongue-tied or feeling competitive? Do we look at it around externally, maybe our environment, or feeling like maybe we don't have the opportunities that others have? What is it exactly? What is tripping you up? And is it in all situations, or is it just in certain environments? I worked with somebody recently who said, I feel like I'm always playing 20 questions. It's the game of 20 questions again. And I remember from my early years as a consultant, and even just a couple months ago with a family member, that every time he was like, I just really just don't know what you do. And I wondered, is it me, or is it the words that I use? Or is it you and you just stopped listening to me? Or is it a little bit of both? Right? And there's all kinds of research, that shows that there's actually even a gender gap. And we only have 30 minutes, so I'm not going to go into all of that. But there's a famous Hewlett Packard study from years ago that they had some real internal challenges. I thought people's mics were going to be muted, but it sounds like somebody's mic is on. If you could just do a quick double check and mute your mics, I'd appreciate that. But there was a study that Hewlett Packard did internally when they realized they had some gender challenges in applications for their internal roles, and they found that men would apply for roles if they met 60% of the qualifications, but women would hold back and would only apply for roles if they met 100% of the qualifications. And it really shined a light on a lot of gender challenges that is, kind of a much bigger issue. And it leads to kind of a situation of perfection and confidence. And sometimes I think even, for some of us, sometimes even if you meet 50 or 60% of the qualifications, you don't get a call back, and it can lead to a, well, do I even go after something? And maybe you don't, and it leads to self-doubt, right? Or maybe we don't get the feedback, and it can become a vicious cycle. So I want you to pause and think, what led you to sign up to this specific webinar today at this point in your career? And keep that in the forefront of your mind as we're going through the content that I have for you today. Because the 3 steps that I want you to think about, and the 3 steps I'm going to introduce you to, that are going to really help you as you think about how do you step in and stop downplaying your success, and how do you really show up and be seen. And the first is getting clear on the big picture. I'm going to talk through what that looks like. It's going to craft your brag statement. Bragging can be a triggering word, so we're going to talk about what that really is and how you do it. And the third is, how do you go about and command your space with intention? So we're going to talk through all 3 of those things in a very rapid fire pace today, very practical. So when I talk about step number 1, getting clear on the big picture, it really starts with, where are you today? Your current context, your career, your organization, your situation. It is unique. And the organization that you are in is different than every other organization. And that organizational culture, the way work gets done there, is very different than even the organization that is in the building next door. The path that you have in the organization that you are in is very different than a path you could take in any other organization. And if you've been there for a week, if you've been there for a month, if you've been there for 3 years, if you've been there for 20 years, all of that is your current context. But where did you come from? Where do you live? What part of do you live in the United States? Do you live in Canada? What part of the United States? What part of Canada do you live in? Where did you go to school? What did you study in school? How did you make your decisions? Where did you grow up? How did you decide the path that you took? How did you end up in the organization that you ended up in? What has led to the beliefs that you hold about work? What is your value structure? And I always tell people to think about your personal values and your work values, and are they in an alignment? Because that's important to think about where you are today, because those things even shape where you're going in the future, and your career aspirations and your goals, and where you want to be in the future. And thinking about the strengths that you have, those things that we inherently and intuitively just do naturally well. That's part of where you are today. So getting clear on that big picture is so important as the starting point and the anchor in how you show up. This context really informs all of it. And we need to understand that context because the stories we tell ourselves really shapes how we show up. Because when you think about the title of this presentation, right, to stop downplaying our success, a lot of times we downplay our success because we get in our own way. Maybe it's self doubt. Maybe it is we don't really believe that what we have to say is of value. But self doubt is often a natural response that's rooted in fear or rooted in fear of failure or rejection. But it's amplified by just a cognitive distortion. And we really reiterate, if we reiterated that negative thinking, it shapes how we perceive the opportunities all around us. And it shapes how we perceive challenges. So, what happens then is we start to create self limiting beliefs. We get in our own way and we start to hold ourselves back. So, there's research that says that if we can reframe those negative thoughts, it actually can reduce the anxiety and can help to build problem solving skills. Cognitive reframing, it's about positive psychology. It can actually create a new mindset. It can shift our mindset. It can help us to approach challenges with clarity and confidence. And I'm going to give you a couple examples, and I'm not going to read through all of this, but you're going to get this slide deck so that you'll have this. Right? If we have this mindset that, oh, I'm not qualified for this role, right? A way to reframe that, if we can see on paper, here are the job description and here are the qualifications, and I can actually see I meet the qualifications because I have X, Y, and Z in my background, and I have the degree, or I have the roles, or I have the strengths, or I have the project experience. I can say, but what I know to be true is that I have the skills and the experience to grow and succeed in this role. I remember early in my consulting career, somebody asked me how I ended up working at Booz Allen. I said, "Yeah, I was just lucky," and I was coached um, that was not, you know, that was not something I should be saying. And I had a female leader said, "No, your hard work got you through the door." I had a master's degree, and my hard work got me through the door into the interview. And they saw that my analytic thinking was what helped me, right, convince them that I was a fit. And I was like, wow, that's just a really different way of thinking about it, right? And so it's a different way of thinking about who we are. So it's an important way to think about reframing some of those negative things. So when you get this deck, I've outlined an exercise for you to start to flip the script on self-doubt. And it's going to be homework for you as you go back to think through identifying the doubt, reframing the thought, and then making it actionable. Now, the second step is really around crafting your brag statement. And bragging is a really triggering word for a lot of people. You don't have to use the word brag. I like to use the word brag because it's so provocative and it makes people like stand up and go, "Ooh, bragging," because we think of braggarts as being very arrogant. But bragging is really about your narrative. It's about your story. It's not about being a jerk. It's not about putting others down. It's not about name dropping or cutting others off or a license to be insensitive. This is about advocating for yourself. It's about sharing your value, and it's about showing up and just being really clear and confident. Hey, I have something to bring here that's really important. Think about it as healthy bragging and helping others recognize your contributions, right? Um, when we under communicate what we've accomplished, it actually can lead to being overlooked, even when we're delivering really important and impactful kinds of things. And so when you think about, like, if you did all of the work on a project, but somebody else delivers that project in a meeting, then the person who's doing the delivery is often the one who is given the credit for the work, right? And so it's important that we are advocating for ourselves. And there is a bias barrier, right? And so intentional bragging can be a tool to help us. Women and underrepresented groups often face biases that kind of discourage self promotion, but reframing bragging as a tool for credibility and advocacy, in my opinion, it is, as somebody who has lived it, it is essential for professional growth. And so the way to really think about this is in three steps. Think about your audience, who you're going to be talking to, and what they care about, your role in a very discreet way, what you do or what you've done, but how it relates back to the audience and what they care about and words they can relate to. And then the so what? Why do they care? Why does it matter? But it all goes back to the audience. And I'm going to give you two personal examples that I think you can relate to. And I actually just, even before this presentation, refined them based on an example that literally just happened to me today. I met with my day job is with Accenture. Accenture is a probably the largest global consulting firm. I think we're up to 700,000 employees. So I do this kind of coaching on the side because it is what kind of feeds my soul. But I met with one of our global management committee members who's pursuing an innovative multi-million dollar project, and he's interviewing me for a lead role on his response team. And so when I thought about what does he care about? And the questions really is, why should I trust her? Why should he trust me? Does she, Shannan, understand my challenges? Can she help me win this deal? Is she pragmatic enough in her execution? Can she speak plainly, or is she going to be too academic as a doctor? Right? And so when I went in to speak with him, this is basically, I scripted it out and I practiced it because I think practice is important so that I could actually speak plainly to him. And I was like, hey, I am 20 years as a behavioral scientist and a management consultant. And I joke that my career work has always fallen into two buckets: field of dreams, build it and they will come, or hazmat. Hey, Shannan, come make them use this shiny new thing that we built for them that no one's using. And I've built my so what? I've built two capability-based practices and joined this firm to focus on being a thought leader, stepping away from account leadership so that I could stay on the cutting edge with hands-on delivery. And I'm a firm believer in meeting clients where they are, adapting to their unique needs to help them navigate change with less disruption. And my ultimate goal is to work myself out of a job by empowering them to thrive long after I'm gone and to uncover the next opportunity to partner with them along the way. So that just happened, I don't know, at 11:30 this morning. Yes, I got the response. I'm on the response team. And the second example, a little closer to home, This one was when I was thinking about you guys. Workshop participants attending this presentation on how to be more visible. Your question is why should I trust Shannan? Why should I trust her? Does she understand my challenges? Can she help me? I have 20 plus years as an organizational psychologist and management consultant, coaching leaders from Fortune 500 to startups at all levels of the organization. I have had to pitch thousands of times for sales pursuit and myself. I've been where you are. I have downplayed my achievements and I've let doubt creep in, but I've been able to build two multi-million-dollar businesses and made the executive ranks. And now I'm here to coach others to overcome their doubts. My approach is practical, it's actionable, and it's focused on helping you step into your spotlight with confidence. So when you think about you telling your narrative, and when you think about you building your brag statement, it always starts with who are you talking to? And in what setting are you telling it, right? And you can adapt this for any medium. You can adapt it for a resume. You can adapt it for an interview. You can adapt it for an introduction. You can adapt it for an elevator pitch. You can adapt it for did I say resume? I did say resume. You can adapt it for all kinds of things, right? Your resume, this is kind of a starting point. When I work with people, when they're working on their resume, we also use the STAR model, which is a behavioral interviewing technique, situation, task, action, and results, and really getting into the nitty gritty. What was the situation, right? Describe what the situation was like. What was your specific task? What were the concrete actions that you took on that task? What were the results? And if you can describe those things and have concrete examples, man, it's a powerful, powerful story. I worked with my sister years ago as she was prepping for an interview. Um, I thought she was going to divorce me in our family, but she prepped for an interview using that model. And she was like, I was the most prepared I've ever been. She goes, I walked in so confident in my examples and so prepared. And they offered her the job like in the moment. And this is before I even started coaching in any capacity. Right. But it's all about being confident in knowing your narrative. And so a couple bonus tips is in whatever role you're in right now, start keeping track of metrics. Start keeping track of some of the statistics and the things that really kind of matter, the data, right? Because those types of things are all about the results. They're the so what, the why people kind of care, that demonstrate that there has been impact through the work that you've been doing. And I've got an exercise in here to help you to build your brag statement. The last step is really around commanding your space with intention. And our confidence really grows through small intentional actions that we repeat with consistency. So whether you're going into a networking event or you're going into a meeting or you're going into an interview, it's all about how we show up. And so if you've got step one and step two under your belt, the third step is really around being intentional. The first is really around acting with confidence. It impacts how others perceive you. It impacts how others perceive your competence. So sometimes you have to step in with confidence, even if you don't feel that way. Confidence is about action, it isn't about a feeling. The second is when you start to project that confidence, you can actually change your internal belief over time. So the more you step in and act confident, you can actually change your internal belief for yourself. The third is that our nonverbal cues, like the way we hold our posture, our tone of voice, it influences the perceptions of others and how they perceive our confidence. And the fourth is power poses. Ugh, I love power poses. They can actually increase our feelings of confidence and actually reduce our stress. So, changing our language is really also a way we can show up with confidence. You can replace things that are a little bit weaker, phrases like I think to I recommend. I just wanted to I want to highlight even some of the language that we use have a big impact on how we show up confidently. So this is a bonus tip. So I've included for you as part of the presentation a pre-event checklist that you can do before you go into a meeting or a networking event or into an interview. So you're going to get this as part of the slide deck when I send it out to you. It'll either be later tonight or tomorrow morning. So, key takeaways for you, we're coming up on 2 minutes, is just remember that your wins really, really matter. Highlighting your achievements, it really isn't bragging in a negative way. It's bragging in a very healthy way. It's about owning your value. And confidence is a skill. Your self doubt can be reframed, and your confidence will grow with practice. Small, small changes can have big impacts. So, simple shifts in how you show up can really change how you are seen. So, if you really want to get started, or even just want to have a quick look at anything that you've been working on, or have a specific thing that you want a second set of eyes on, feel free to get 15 minutes with me on my dime. We can get a quick call. That's my QR code, and we can dive into your goals and start to outline a clear and actionable path for you. So I appreciate that you have joined me for 30 minutes on this Thursday evening, January 9th, where it's probably cold all throughout North America. And I wish you all the very best. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now